Wow, that was very loud. Wow. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Mojave County Public Lands and Recreation Commission. Today is July 3rd, 2025. We're going to call the meeting to order, and if Commissioner Barlow would lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'll try not to blow everybody's eardrums out with this microphone. Could I get a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Absolutely. Commissioner Barlow.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
I'm not seeing Commissioner Diaz on Teams, but I'll let you know if he pops up. Commissioner Herrero.
Here.
Commissioner Ellingson.
Present.
Director Letowski.
Here.
And Chairman Lingenfelter.
And I am here, and we're going to welcome our two new commissioners. This first meeting. I'm glad to have you as we delve into some of these public lands and recreation issues. The fourth item on our agenda this morning is approval of our January 2nd, 2025 and our February 6th, 2025 Public Lands and Recreation Commission summary minutes. Are there any changes, or I would be open to a motion?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes appear to have it, do have it, so ordered. Thank you.
I have to abstain though, just because I wasn't here.
Of course. Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes of our agenda this morning. Item number 5 is going to be a presentation from Mr. John Stefka, Environmental and Community Manager from Antler Operations Incorporated, regarding the Antler Copper Mine. If you'd like to come up to the podium, Mr. Stefka, thank you for being with us this morning. Podium and the floor is yours. Did you have a presentation or anything that we need to bring up? Or?
I have a presentation.
Okay, very good. Please proceed.
Well, thanks for having me here. I always love talking about the project. I do want to mention before we get into things, I know this is the Public Land and Recreation Committee, but most of this is happening on private land. So I'll have Amanda Dodson cover off on much of the public land, but I'll be giving you a brief overview of the project, and additional information is going to be available online, which I'll point out in my presentation. My name's John Stefka, Environment and Community Manager for Antler Copper Project. I work for Antler Operations, Inc., which is a subsidiary of the New World Resources Company based out of Australia. So I'll dive right into the project history. There's been a long history at Antler Copper. It's a brownfield project, meaning there's historic mining has occurred there. Exploration, it was found in the late 1870s. It was patented in the 1890s by Phelps and Dodge. And it was kind of on and off production starting in World War I, and it's traded hands through World War II. And there was numerous operators doing small quantity, very high grade copper. And then more recently, Standards Metal Corporation acquired the project, and they started a little bit bigger operation. And you can see the head frame in the picture in the presentation. That is a remnant from their operations. They stopped producing in 1975, and this project sat dormant until 2020 when Antler Operations Inc. took over. So presently we've drilled 67,000 meters, or over 170 holes, and to be updated over 200 holes of modern day exploration. And we have a pre-feasibility study completed last year that's on the New World Resources website, showing just under 12 million tons, and has since been updated to 13 million tons. So you see at the bottom, there's the quantities there from the historic production of, in total, less than 91,000 tons, and we're proposing a couple order magnitudes more than that. So this is an overview of where the project's located. We're about 25 miles south of Kingman, right off Interstate 80. There's Yucca, and then 10 miles from Yucca, from the Alamo Road to the Boreana Mine Road, here I'll use the cursor for those following along, is the mine access. This mine access then continues on through the project and past the project on the Arizona Peace Trail. There's a public easement in there for public access, which will remain in place, and that's going to be protected as part of our plan of operations. We have very, very good access for a mine site being so close to population centers, the interstate, and the railway. We have the ability to co-locate infrastructure along this existing disturbance and the existing roadways. So from Interstate 40, there's the Alamo Road, which is paved. From Alamo Road, it goes to the Boreana Mine Road, which is unpaved, and that's the hashed CR253 road there. We are proposing to pave this road, and we're going to pave it all the way to the mine operation, so all the way to the front gate. We're also planning on co-locating a water pipeline in that roadway, so all within existing disturbances, and something that we'd be looking to do a lease with the county on. And the power is the main infrastructure, and that's going to be a Unisource electric line. So they're designing and building a 69 kV line that will feed to the mine, so we'll have line power for production. Right now, we're currently permitting generator use in all of our state permits, so as we build, we'll be using generators, but we'll transition over to line power at a later date. And you can see some of the land package that the company holds in here. It's checkerboard. So the two main aspects or actions associated with our project are the infrastructure, which crosses checkerboard, public-private land, and then our land package where the mine is almost entirely on private land, with the exception of 2 acres. All of the major mine facilities are going to be on our private land, both patented and unpatented. This is a layout that shows a little bit more detail of all the mine facilities. As mentioned, there's only 2 acres of public land disturbance, and that's just generally where my cursor is here in this little triangle of BLM. There's a road and some fencing that will be on public land. With the exception of that, everything else is on private. This tie-dye polygon here is actually all subsurface. It's going to be underground. So this is the mining area. This tiny little box right here labeled as the mine portal is going to be the entry to the mine. That's where we will take people and equipment underground. And as you can see here, for scale, that's just a few acres. Most mines have big craterous pits, and then when they do go underground, it's after they've done surface operations. So it's a much larger impact, much larger surface area. This is tiny. So all mining will be subsurface, and there's no surface disturbance outside of road access to that point. Major mine facilities are the process plant. It's this rectangle over here. So we will have crushing, milling, and then a flotation circuit, which from that we'll have 3 different types of concentrates. We'll have copper, zinc, and lead. And within that lead, we'll have precious metals, silver, and gold. We're going to be doing about 30,000 tons of copper equivalent a year. So that's quite a bit, and it's very good grade. Our underground method is going to be long hole open stoping. So we have a single decline as noted here with the portal. We don't have multiple access points to get in there. It's just going to be one. When we're done processing the ore, we'll send the concentrates off site, and then the ore that has been stripped of the metals will be going to this dewatered tailing storage facility. That's the above ground facility, and that'll take about 60% of the tailings. And the other 40 to 45% will go underground as a paste, and it'll be mixed with cement. And that'll help stabilize the underground. If you've read or heard anything about underground mining, a concern can be subsidence, so surface cracking, surface being depressed, having impacts. When you use paste backfill as methodology, you will not have that. We also have a cap at the surface where we are not mining anywhere near the surface, so there's going to be an extra buffer of protection for all of our employees and infrastructure. The other major facility is the waste rock storage facility. We have less than 2 million tons planned over the life of mine, which is next to nothing, and that's going to be basically the development of the decline. So to get to the bottom of our underground workings, we're going to be putting that material out there. Everything on the outside will be inert. It's going to be clean rock. If we do come across anything that could be potentially acid generating, which we test for before we go into operations and during operations. It'll be encapsulated within. All of these facilities that include any liquid from the process circuit or from the dry stack tailings, anything that has liquid in it is designed to best available demonstratable technologies. So it's a mouthful, but it's the Arizona standards, and they're all line facilities to prevent zero discharge. So every facility here has no potential to discharge in the environment. And we have a pretty robust monitoring network, and you can see on there's monitoring wells down gradient of these facilities that will be used for operations and into closure for monitoring. I'll just do a quick plug on this. This is not part of anything associated with the public land, but the legacy material remediation, as mentioned, when Standard Metals left, it was pre-regulation, so they just kind of left everything as is. And we've made the commitment on our private lands to voluntarily remediate that material, meaning once we construct these facilities, the tailings plant, that we will move all of that material on top of there. And so we'll clean up the environment, and our motto is leave it better than you found it, right? Okay. This is kind of a cool 3D look of full build out. So you can see the dump to the northeast, the dry stack tailings here is the big facility, and then our process facilities. Again, just want to point out what a small footprint this is. In total, we have 171 acres of surface disturbance, and most modern mines, especially copper in Arizona, is thousands of acres. And this is what it looks like when it's all done. So to back up a little bit, so we have voluntarily committed to salvaging plant materials. So we have native plants. It's a very interesting area where the Mojave and Sonoran Desert combine, so we get things like Joshua trees and saguaro cactus. We are going to be salvaging those specimen mature species of all species and developing a cactus garden during operations. Then on the back end, as part of reclamation, we'll go in and we'll plant that material on our facilities. And we've made it available to other groups that have interest. If there's a group that would like plants for medicinal, cultural purposes, we're going to make those available to those groups. Our total reclamation and closure is going to take 2 to 3 years. We have committed to concurrent reclamation, so that means we're going to be doing the earthworks for the reclamation as we go. We stack a lift on the tailings facility. We'll do the outside slope at a much shallower angle to help with any concerns like erosion. And of course, we're utilizing the best designs and practices for today. Dry stack tailings or dewatered tailings is the best you can do for this type of method. Most tailings facilities from the past are an impoundment, and you've heard of tailings dams and tailings dams failures and some of these scary things where it's more of a slurry or a liquid. This is going to be dry. This is going to be more like a leach pad. This is going to be more like dirt. So this is something that we can move. We'll have stabilized, we'll have embankment. We'll make sure that that material is not going anywhere. And again, it's lined. We have a series of ponds underneath that will help drain into, and then we can recollect all of that. So as we filter out these tailings, we'll be able to recirculate that water and save over 70% of all the water that we use in our process circuit, which will help reduce the total amount of water needed. Our makeup water, our production water that we're going to be pumping from underground is minimal relative to most mines that require large quantities of water. Quick overview on permitting. I'm going to let Amanda cover off on our mine plan of operation environmental assessment. But I will touch on the state permits. So right now we are under public notice for the aquifer protection permit, and this is with Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. That will wrap up this month, so we're at the very tail end of that. That's available online, so public comments are welcome, and there's a lot of information, our application, all the technical stuff's there. And we're getting ready to do the same for the air quality permit, so that's going to start later this month. So there'll be a 30-day review period starting later this month. We've actually gone through the process for the Arizona State Mine Land Reclamation Plan. So we have a reclamation plan with the state, which enables us to have surface disturbance on private lands. We're in the process of getting the bond set up for that, and we expect that to happen by August. So we're moving right along concurrent with the federal permitting on this. And then in the future, very near future, we have a meeting later this month to go over the underground injection control permit. And we'll have an application submitted to the state that will allow us to put the paste backfill underground. So there's been quite a lot of government and community engagement with this project, and much of this started before I was with the company. I've been with the company since the start of the year. So through the beginning of last year, we've had a pretty large contingency to property and a lot of tours. So I'm not going to go through every single one, but we have a lot of strong proponents. On the federal side, Paul Gosar's been to site last year. His office was just there a couple weeks ago, and they've been very supportive. We've had Mark Kelly's office to site. And of course, we've had great engagement with the BLM Kingman office. Amanda's team's doing a fantastic job, and they're really good to work with. We've talked with the state permitting. We've had all respective parties to site. They really enjoy it. It's a nice place for a mine, and it's a good place to get out and go put boots on the ground at. We did a presentation to Governor Hobbs' office, and we've had some meetings with some select directors for Mojave County to help us set up things like the infrastructure for the project. And this is big and different compared to most mines in the state of Arizona, but our tribal engagement is fantastic. We sent letters to every tribe in the state of Arizona, no matter how far they are from the project, inviting them to come to our project and attend a site tour and learn more about what we're proposing, and for us to have the ability to learn more what they would like to see, or if there's anything that they believe that they could gain. And they've been very good in teaching us about some of the cultural sites. We have done extensive on-the-ground studies, and so that's always a good tour stop, is to go out and look at some of these sites that are all on private land, and they're all outside of the areas of proposed disturbance. So there's no issues in terms of any of the prehistoric sites or any of the cultural sites. But we've had 4 tribes to site, and some of them multiple times. We actually have a tribal tour later this meeting, and a meeting in Phoenix to present to the southern tribes later this month as well. So this is ongoing, concurrent with all the federal permitting, with all the state permitting, but we just want to get out in front of it and offer elders or tribal councils to come out and participate. And then we've also been in touch with the locals that are adjacent to the property. So there's 5 residences within a mile of the project. So we've had tailgate barbecue with them, going over the project, and we're looking here to do the same thing in the future as we get more information and give updates on things like road access, water, fugitive dust, all these things that we have solutions for is going to be presented to them very soon. Here's some community benefits from the project. So $68 million in income tax, almost $7 million in property tax, and $360 million in wages paid. That's all found in the PFS. You can find that online. There's a lot of additional details on that. We're looking to build a team here. Understand there's existing underground miners. There's a lot of surface miners. I'm formerly with Moss Gold, so very familiar with a lot of the miners that we have in our county. And we have a lot of operations starting back up. So it's exciting times for Mojave County. And we're looking to build our team and develop them in-house, so we have an opportunity to bring people in with little to no experience and get them trained up. And I'll just give an example of a mechanic. So we can get them CAT certified, and with that we would pay for all the training, all the education, and then they would have an employment agreement with us to work with us. But then we'd have more people within the area that are certified to work on this heavy mine equipment. We're also talking educational scholarship programs. We're working through a lot of it, but you know, the Mojave Community College is a perfect place to build the skill sets that we need for mines. This happens all over the West. It takes time, and it doesn't happen overnight, but there's a lot of these skilled positions that we could develop at the local community college. Corporate stewardship. So already mentioned the Legacy mine cleanup. That's a commitment, and we're sticking to it. We're always prioritizing safety, and we'll hope to achieve zero harm. We're doing it right. This is a brand new mine. There's not very many of these. I mean, to be using the best technology and not have anything scary from the past, to be in front of everything, to have the time to make smart decisions and think about everything. This is going to be state-of-the-art facility. So our hiring philosophy is we want to hire local. This project is in an advantageous position, so it's 40 miles away from everything, as I like to say, but all the big towns are within an hour's drive of it. I live in Bullhead City, and it's about an hour to the project site. Kingman's about a half hour away, and Havasu's probably 45 minutes or so. We're looking to carpool employees, so we are going to target all communities in Mojave County and get the best qualified people to work for us, and we will make sure that they have good paying jobs and they have a great career. I like to pitch it as in mining, a lot of it's short term, but with us, when you have a brand new project from construction through closure, we're looking at 18 years. So that's a career, that's not a job. You have the ability to, learn new skills. You have the ability to move up and advance your career and be on for the long haul. So that's very attractive from a recruiting standpoint. And of course, we're going to try to target as many of the Arizona-based suppliers as possible. There's a lot, and it's growing, and there's a big support network in the state of Arizona for mining. So we will be looking to get as much products and supplies as we can locally. So that's what I have for today. This is the website for Antler Copper. Antler Copper kind of goes over more of the social and environmental aspects. There's also a corporate website for New World Resources that has more additional details on things like technical studies and financial aspects of the corporation. My contact information's up there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is this an appropriate time to ask questions, or did Amanda from BLM have anything to round out the presentation before we get into questions? How would you like to proceed? Welcome, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
It's always nice to have you.
Yep. I'll just give a brief overview of how the project would be affecting public lands, because it is a small subset. I just thought it would be a good idea to get an overview of the whole project.
Thank you.
On that side. So overall, the public nexus to this will be the rights of way, not the right of ways, but the alignments for the power line right away from Unisource. 69 kV line will be starting at the Yucca substation, following the Alamo Road, Boriana Mine Road to the mine site, as John had shared. So we're working with Unisource in conjunction with this project. It'll all be part of the same environmental analysis. And then, as John had said, the water line from their private well across the public-private land to the mine site, and then paving of Boriana Mine Road. And then within the mine site, there's a small segment of Hall Road that'll be located on public land. And then one of the items that I had wanted to highlight is the Boriana Mine Road through the private property. BLM has an easement across that road, and so that access will be 100% protected on that standpoint. So the mine will be putting a fence on either side of the road for safety purposes, and then where the mine traffic needs to cross that road, they're actually building a bridge for the mine traffic to be above the road, so there won't be any long-term restrictions across Boriana Mine Road getting back into the Wallapies. It would just be very short-term when they're constructing the project on that standpoint, and the Arizona Peace Trail follows that alignment, so that was important for us to make sure that that access was accounted for. So overall, the BLM component part of this project is really for the ancillary facilities on that side of it. For the environmental assessment, chapters 1 and 2 of that are currently out for public scoping. That period closes next week on July 8th. We'll be reviewing those scoping comments and writing the rest of the EA, which should be out for public comment. The plan is in October for that standpoint. So the mine plan of operation, a lot more details for the project are available on BLM's e-planning site, if you want more detailed information. But yeah, John and I are available for questions.
Thank you again so much for being here and for the presentation. Do any of our commissioners have questions for Amanda and BLM on the access, the permitting, any of that stuff before we call up Mr. Stefka again? No? No? Thank you, Amanda. Mr. Stepka, could you come back up to the podium? I think that we may have some commissioner questions for you. Again, thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. We'll just go right down the line. Commissioner Barlow, do you have any questions for the
Yeah.
Mr. Stepka?
So I just was wondering about your safety plan. You laid it out clearly. Like I was trying to find questions and you answered them as I went, or as you went. But the one thing I was wondering, because you said there's only one entrance into that place, what is your safety plan if that becomes blocked?
So we would have muster points that are located off property. I mean, there's ways of getting around. If necessary, there would only be the one paved access getting to the front of the mine entrance. Real quick on safety too, I don't know that everyone, and I'll come back to this question, but we are under MSHA with mining, so Mine Safety Health Administration, so very strict rules, right? And we'll be designing to that. So we'll have things like emergency response procedures, and all of those things will be developed that are a little bit more robust than what we have for exploration. But you can pass through the project in terms of access, and you can actually, I mean, this isn't something that we would do for most of the workers, right? But if you have four-wheel drive, you can drive all the way to Kingman, right? From the process, it loops all the way through. So there's other ways of getting back to the interstate or getting further away in the event of, you know, an emergency situation.
Any more? No. Commissioner Smith.
Yes, the only question I come up with is how much water per year is this project going to use? I mean, like an acre feet or?
So right now the model for our production well is 200 gallons per minute. That is not going to be a steady state. So most of our water is actually going to be generated from dewatering the underground working. So as we go deeper, we're going to be pumping more water out of the underground. So that'll be coming through the same portal area, and we'll be pumping that to a pond. From that pond, we'll be pumping it to our process facilities. We'll have a water treatment plant to get any impurities out of there, but we'll use that as the main source of our water. So there's years of operation, as in 5 or 6 years, where we really don't need to add water, but we will have water available or water pumped from our production well into tanks for things like dust abatement or emergencies. But we'll have a lot of water available to us, and we'll have most of it recirculated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Herrero.
Thank you for your presentation. You've mentioned that you're going to pave the road from the highway all the way to your mine.
Yeah.
Once you're up and running, well, how many trucks do you consider per day? And have you talked to the local residents? Because there's been quite an influx of permanent residents in that area, you know, with noise pollution and things like that. If you overcome their concerns?
Yes, so we have done traffic studies, and right now the existing traffic that goes through the mine property, so the Boreana mine road that goes from, say, like the front of the mine through the end of the property onto public is minimal. So there's not a lot of traffic, but as noted, there's going to be more. We'll have the concentrate shipped off daily, so we'll have over a dozen up to 2 dozen trucks every day, and then we're going to have support vehicles, and we're going to have workers that are going to be carpooling to minimize, and, you know, not everyone's going to have a truck. Only manager levels, supervisors would have trucks where they would drive themselves. And so outside of that, we don't anticipate too much traffic. We're still adding more details as what that looks like in terms of frequencies. So we have included all that information if you look at the technical documents, but it's a model, right? Like reality can differ sometimes, and we're looking to reduce further from that.
Concerning water, you know, that's precious to all of us here in this area, and doesn't sound like you're going to use a lot of water, but the water you use, is it recyclable? Like if it goes on the ground, can you reuse it for the same operation over again, or is it lost once it's...
The best way to think of it is everything above ground is what we can recirculate and reuse. We do have the ability, so on the dry stack tailings facility, we have a pond underneath, so it's lined, and there's not expected to be any discharge, but in the event that there were, we would collect anything from under the facility into a pond, and from that pond would be pumped back. We would use all stormwater, so like we're repurposing everything that we can that's above ground, and then we're using underground water from the mine area. So I mean, it's just no stone unturned in terms of like what we can reuse and recirculate.
Right. And one last one. You mentioned you're going to recycle the plants that you're going to move, the cactuses and different things. Will you be doing the same thing with anything that's endangered, like turtles or anything, or offering them for adoption or any way to save them? Or
There's no plans. We won't be handling any of the wildlife out there.
okay,
But we have wildlife management plans to, preclude access. So all process facilities will be fenced. We'll have desert tortoise fencing, things like that, where it'll be wildlife friendly.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellingson.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. I do have multiple questions, so I appreciate your answers. Making sure that I understood correctly what you said. So Antler is the subsidiary of New World?
Correct.
Okay. And are you guys going to stay on as operators of the mine?
Absolutely. Yep. It's going to be Antler Copper Project ran by Antler Operations. Yep.
Okay. And then one other question. When it comes to the water issue, did you guys have to secure water rights in order to get access to the water?
That's a great question. And no, we did not. It's not an active management area.
Okay.
So and I probably didn't do a great job of pointing it out. It was on the figure and I pointed to it, but the production well is in the valley. It's in the alluvium, so it's not in the bedrock. Meaning there's a lot more water available as you get closer to Sacramento Wash. So there is a lot of water. It's not overprescribed. There's not a lot of water users, and there's none within a mile of where that well location is.
Okay. And at the actual mining site, when you're going to be drilling down, you're not going to potentially hit any water tables or anything like I've
Yes,
seen
no,
a mine
we
site
will
when that's happened, it
actively-
created a lake.
Yeah, so the water table is in the historic underground workings that were never closed, as previously discussed. Those filled in with water. We will be pumping that out. We will be using it, and we'll continue to draw down the water table just in proximity of where the underground workings are. So it has to be a safe, dry environment for our workers. So we will continue to pull down the water table, and think of it as a cone around the underground being pulled down during operations. And as soon as we stop with almost immediately, 50% comes back immediately, and then 90% within 10 years. So it's a really rapid recharge of this, where we're intentionally pulling the water down just where we're working.
Do you have an estimated of full depth by the time you get done with 10 or 18 years?
We do, and actually we have all that information in the mine plan of operation. So we did a groundwater model that covers the whole region. So it includes the valley, includes the Hualapai, and it goes into all of those details, and it shows at year 0, year 15, year 100, so post-mining.
Okay. And I believe you had mentioned that you guys were already doing some remediation from some of the legacy work that had been done on the site previously?
We will be as soon as we're permitted to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who organizes that permit?
That's going to be through the state, and it's just a voluntary remediation permit. And of course, everybody's on board with that. So we have to first become permitted and construct facilities, and then we'll have that permit in hand to be able to remediate.
Okay, great. Just going through. I think that's all my questions. Thank you so much.
Stefka, I just have a couple just to summarize for those that may be listening and watching. And maybe I missed it, but do you guys have a ramp up and opening timeline for this project?
Excuse me. So general construction schedule will be Q1 of next year. So we need to secure all of our permits. Sorry, I lost my voice. So we would be looking to start construction, and it'll last about 2 years. So hopefully hit commercial production by Q4 2027.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Heard the mining timeline is 18 years. That's accurate, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Estimated employment around 300 is what I thought I saw on the slide. Is that correct?
And more
During construction?
during construction.
So that's
exactly.
just
So
after everything's up
probably
and running.
500 in total, but 300 in steady state operations.
Great. That's great. On the water, I believe this area is over the Sacramento Basin, correct? Not the Wallapai Basin. The Wallapai Basin, there's been a lot of
Yep,
media
correct.
attention and concern
Yep.
where the Wallapai Basin is under the city of Kingman and the main population center, but this is actually at the Sacramento Basin.
different
right?
basin.
I'm glad to hear that you did a report on that. I know that state of Arizona, ADWR, Water Resources, they're actually charged now with doing a supply and demand assessment for every single basin in the state of Arizona. First year of that was 23. It's on a 5-year rotating basis. So I think from my context, the Sacramento Basin is going to be going through, and one of those reports is going to be issued on the Sacramento Basin either next year or the year after that. So just so, those that are concerned with how much water we actually have in the Sacramento Basin, we'll have that data. So it's good to know that. My last question is really, are you aware of Mojave College's Advanced Manufacturing Training Center?
I am not, no.
Okay, so that's a really, I'd love to make that connection with you. Main guy on that right now is Jason Gee. That's in Kingman, that's at the industrial park, and just listening to, how you're going to be employing people and just some of the disciplines and trades that are involved. I think we're going to be at a ribbon cutting middle of August on that project. It's a 36,000 square foot facility, $17 million, and it's all about the trades and advanced stuff like you're doing. So I'd love to
Great.
make that connection for you guys if you'd be open to that.
Absolutely. Very much appreciated.
Good training source. Any other questions before we move on? Again, thank you both for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item number 6 on our agenda, presentation from Amanda Dotson, Field Manager for Kingman and Lake Havasu City, Bureau of Land Management, regarding the public comment period closing July 8th, 2025 for the Antler Copper Mine. Amanda, thank you again.
Good morning again.
Morning.
I thought I already gave my presentation. I'll bring up another map on that. I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot to add. Let me just see which one's going to be the best. Yeah, so just to highlight, I think John's map was prettier than mine, but again, for the overall project, just east of Yucca, you can see here on this map on the left-hand side, just south of where Alamo Road is printed out in section 19, that's where the private well is located. That would be supplying the makeup water to the mine. And then the power line and the water line will be paralleling Boreana Mine Road over to the site. So really just going through a few sections of public land on that standpoint. And then if you look at the inset to the upper left of this map, you'll see a little bit how public land interacts with the mine part. The red and purplish hashed area that will be fenced off on either side of the road, but access will be through there as well, through the Cavalier Ranch, through that easement that BLM has on that standpoint. And then you can also see in that inset, there's more of a light pinkish road, and that's going to be a haul road over to the waste rock area on that standpoint. So again, just very little BLM nexus to this project. Overall, for the environmental assessment, we do have to assess the effects of the operation on the private property and how that, has the nexus to BLM. So, the EA will be robust in that fashion. We definitely anticipated, concerns with water use, and that's why the, company did the hydrologic study is working with landowners in the area that will probably be affected by the drawdown on plans to be providing them water. And then also with the issues with the dust, for Boriana Mine Road, getting that paved just to, help eliminate those type of issues on that standpoint. And then, as I had previously mentioned, the access through the private property, through the Cavalier Ranch will be maintained on that, which is now part of the Arizona Peace Trail. So we definitely, know that sees recreational activity through that area. But again, just to highlight, BLM's timeline for that, the scoping period is open through next week. I'd like to have the environmental assessment out for public comment in October. That'll be a 30-day public comment period. And then planning to have a decision in January of this year. So we are on a tight time frame under the president's mandate for environmental assessments to be completed in a year, and this project definitely fits into president's emphasis on mining. So this is a high priority for our office to be working with John and his team on the BLM portion of permitting for that timeline. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys asked me to come back again in October-ish to give an update on the project for that, and I'll be happy to do that. As I said, I think John did a really good job with the overview, and I'll open it up to any specific questions you guys may have again.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions on the permitting or anything like that from the commissioners? Commissioner Ellingson?
Just if I clarify this, have you done any public comment periods yet to start this process, or just the future dates?
So we're in the scoping period right now.
Okay.
So we've made chapters 1 and 2 available of the environmental assessment for the scoping period. So that is available for public comment. The scoping portion is geared towards getting information from the public for any issues or concerns that they have that they want us to see analyzed in the EA. And so far we have seen a lot of concerns regarding water, which is what we expected on that standpoint.
Are most of the concerns from residential or private residential people versus agencies?
Yes, that's what it's looked like. I haven't verified where those people live, but a lot of folks have identified that they're in the Yucca area and are concerned about the water.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Amanda, again, thank you for being here. You've always been a good partner with the BLM and with us at the county. We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 8. There's been a lot of talk about this over the last month or so. It's a presentation from our Development Services Department, Director Holtree, analysis of an amendment to the Federal Reconciliation Bill regarding the proposed sale of federal lands in Mojave County. I think most people have been referring to that as the Lee Amendment after Senator Mike Lee from Utah. I know that's been pulled out of that package, but still thought it'd be important to have Director Holtree come up and prevent outrage, right? Maybe gives just the facts.
Yeah. So item 7. Did we skip that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wanna go with that one first?
Yes, I do. Sorry about that. Let's back up. We do have with us a presentation from Amanda Kaufman. Thank you, Amanda, for being here. Also, thank you to Sergeant Tarkowski and others from Search and Rescue, Mojave County Sheriff's Department, regarding search and rescue efforts on public lands and their interactions with public lands agencies. Thank you for being here, Amanda.
Absolutely. Good morning. We should have a presentation.
Great. Do we have a presentation for the search and rescue, please?
So I gotta do a thing.
All right.
All right. So I'm Amanda Kaufman. I am one of the volunteers with the Sheriff's Office, and Sergeant Tarkowski is here as well. He oversees there's somewhere usually between about 120 and 140 of us that, let's say at 3:30 this morning, we would get woken up for a swiftwater rescue. So I probably have timers on this, sorry. So Arizona, we have our ARS 11441. that says search and rescue operations involving the life or health of any person fall upon the sheriff of that county. In Arizona, there's no charge for that to the lost or the rescued individual for search and rescue help. Each county must bear that expense to maintain and train their respective search and rescue units. So in Mojave County, we have about 140 members. We're broken into 4 geographical areas. So we have Kingman, Bullhead, Havasu, and then we have the Arizona Strip. We also coordinate with DPS for helicopter support and other counties as needed. Each of our members have to have their own 4-wheel drive vehicle. So we're using a lot of personal equipment when we go do these rescues. And the units constantly have like fundraisers to purchase the equipment. And we typically don't receive much government funding. We did have a dollar amount that came through 2 years ago that was divided between the counties and the state that went towards purchasing equipment. And but other than that, most of it's all volunteer, and a lot of members put in their own resources to make these rescues a bit easier on them, if that makes sense. Our search and rescue teams, we were breaking down, obviously, 4-wheel drive. We've been down Boreana Mine Road quite a bit. ATVs, UTVs, they're quicker horse teams that we used to have back in the 80s. We have tracking teams where we're man tracking, or we might even be vehicle tracking, looking for specific indications of where or which way somebody might have went. We have our technical rope rescue teams, so we're responding to high angle rescues and recoveries, even mine shafts. We have our swiftwater rescue teams, we have K9 teams, and we have drone teams. We, this last year or so, we had about 120 missions that were actually search or rescue. They include dementia walkaways, lost hunters, hikers kind of thing, flash flood situations, injured persons where there's a specific rescue, a known location and a known problem. We have recoveries where we do what it takes to bring them home, and many times we'll assist other agencies. Now, I have a few examples. Most of these were on public lands from the last year or so. This was a gentleman that went missing. He's a 27-year-old male. He was overdue. His parents called, say, hey, we haven't heard from our son in a while. He's supposed to be out camping in the wilderness area somewhere in the Dutch Flats. I mean, it's a big area of Yucca. And so we started putting some information out there, and eventually he ends up calling in. I mean, our search area was basically 95 down to Havasu, that range as you go east, I-40 east, 93 as you go down to Phoenix west, and north of the Bill Williams River. That was our initial search area. So it was slowly started to narrow it down, and then he perked up and said, I'm here and everything's okay. We have a bunch of training that we do throughout the year, so we do use the DPS helicopter. For those of you that are local to the Kingman area, you'll probably see occasional posts or people posting on Facebook of some people just hanging from helicopters. It's a high risk way to rescue or recover somebody, but it makes those achievable. We go after, this one was near Lake Alamo or Alamo Lake. They had rolled their UTV pretty well, and we went out there and brought them back. I believe medical helicopters landed to assist on their care for this one. This one was by Sleeping Princess Trail. It is on the east side of the Black Mountains. It's on BLM land, and they had they were part of a group traveling, and they were towards the end and had rolled off. And so the group ahead of them realized we lost their tail, so they went back and looked for them and found them quite a bit down. The picture on the left, right above that white spot, so you have the white line and the white spot, there's like a little dark spot, that's the vehicle and how far it rolled off that roadway there. This one, we had stranded motorists. They're in their 50s, along with a 12-year-old female. They're on Craigie Wash. So Craigie Wash is on the north side of Havasu. And they just got stuck. And a lot of times it's just they're off by themselves instead of traveling in groups. They'll get either a flat tire, or they don't have any tools or a spare, or their truck breaks down. So we'll go out there and bring them back to safety. This one is Boreana Mine Road. On the Arizona, it says Peach Trail, but it's Peace Trail. Up in the Wallapies, they were overdue. And I don't remember exactly what happened on this one. Did they roll on this one? 70-year-old male. Oh, yeah, okay. So he is between Cedar Wash and Wickiup. So he's not quite down to Boreana Mine, and it's a spot on the southern end of the Wallapies that turned towards Wickiup. And he was following somebody else, and somebody else got to where they were going and didn't see him, so he went back looking for him, couldn't find him, called us. And this was interesting. It might be hard to see, but on the right-hand picture, there's a little blue spot, maybe halfway down the picture. That is his tarp. He rolled a quad all the way down there, and he ended up having this blue tarp, and he laid it out, which helped because the guys in our helicopter were able to find him. And he had climbed all the way back up to the road, and he left his helmet up there as an indicator that something's not right. But then he went back down to his quad because that's where he had his supplies. So it was pretty intuitive for him to do that. These guys were down in Needle Mountain. So this is maybe refuge area, or I'm not sure which one it is down there, but they were just out recreating. They were hiking and they got lost and they couldn't figure out how to get back to where they parked their vehicle. And we ended up going in a couple of different ways, and this is the team that came in and got them. This is Boundary Cone, had a guy that got cliffed out. This is down near Oatman. He's a 23-year-old male, wanted to have some time to think, decided to climb up the hill, and then couldn't do anything. A little bit scared to go down, couldn't keep going up. We ended up using the helicopter to grab him and bring him down. On the left picture, there's a red circle showing about where he was. And Bar 10 Ranch. I know Travis knows where that one's at. Way up on the Arizona Strip. We had some stranded motorists there. We've had quite a few. We had some truck drivers hauling water to a mining operation, like big semi-truck drivers, and they just got stuck. And it was raining, the roads were wet and muddy, and yeah. So we'll go out there and retrieve them. This is in Havasupai Indian Reservation down at Beaver Falls, although it's not in Mojave County. Our guys that train with our helicopter team that hang from the strings, they will go down there and assist. In this case, I believe it was like a broken leg for an injured hiker down at Beaver Falls. This is up on BLM, up in White Hills. This was about a year ago. This gentleman went missing. And I just put this one in here to kind of give you an idea of some of the tools that we use when we do our rescues. This is a screenshot from one of our mapping tools, which is called SAR Topo. It's commercially known as CAL Topo, C-A-L Topo. And we're able to keep up with our searchers in real time. So it shows where they've been. We're able to put markers on the map to say this is where we need you to go. And it works offline as well as online, or with cell service, without cell service. So it's pretty useful. We were out there last year for 5 days and anywhere between 113 and 120 degree temperatures looking for him. He was warm. This is somebody not too far from there, I think a couple miles north of there, that just bought their piece of the American Dream. They're 1 or 2 acres up near Senator Mountain, and they got stuck in their U-Haul. So let's see. This one is up in Tompkins Canyon. So I believe this is between Cedar Wash and Antelope Wash, somewhere in there. And they just got stuck. No, this one is on the east side of the Wallapies, I'm sorry. They took the family to go do pictures, and they were in a rental vehicle, and it was an electric vehicle, and there was not a charging station nearby. So that was that one. These are those trucks I was talking about up by the bar 10. This is in Wild Man Valley. And some training that we do. One of the things that we used that money for that I mentioned that we got a couple of years ago, we bought some portable repeaters so we could actually set them up out in some of those rugged areas and increase our communications with our team. Pretty low profile. Yeah, and we also do some of the community events, like Havasu has a big, Havasu Chamber of Commerce has a big event every year. It's called the Poker Run. And it's miles and miles. I don't know how many miles it is. But we, as search and rescue, go out there and kind of stage along the course, just in case there's an injury or something to assist on getting that handled. Aspen Peak, this was last December. Somebody decided that they wanted to take the shortcut back down to the campground, and they ended up getting cliffed out. So we ended up going out to get them. It was very cold that night. I think it was in the teens, 20s, very windy. And just a missing person. We go on our dementia walkaways. We assist the other agencies as well, the other cities. And this is one down by the Bill Williams. If you're familiar with the Bill Williams River, you're going to notice the little green line approaching it is coming actually in from La Paz. So some of our rescues, we will actually come in through another county just to be able to get them out. And this is along the railroad tracks near Santa Fe Ranch exit in I-40. It's on the west side of I-40. She became lost out there. And Monolith Gardens, for those of you here in the area, it's the Surbat Cliffs, or the Surbat Foothill Wilderness area just east of town. We get a lot of calls out there. People get turned around on that trail system. There are a lot of miles of trail out there. This is just showing how a portion of it. Let's see. This is Paloma Wash. This is in the south of Lake Havasu City. Again, we had more stranded motorists. Sometimes it's something as simple as they get lost and run out of gas. Now they're totally stranded. And this is on the west side of the Black Mountains. More stranded motorists, injured hikers. This is Sarah Park. There's a trail system down there. They were on the Lizard Peak Trail, and they became injured. This is a missing person. She is still outstanding. She went missing down at Pierce Ferry. This is Moss Wash in the Wallapai Mountains. Somebody got stranded. It goes back to capability and what people are prepared to do. This is just, some of the things you can do before your trip to try to not become in those situations. Tell somebody where you're going, what you're going to be doing, who's going with you, what you're going to be driving, what you're going to be wearing when you'll come back. I tell people, some people are obsessed with selfies and stuff. Take a selfie, text it to your friends and family. Now we know what t-shirt you're wearing or if you're wearing a hat. It's all good information to have. Bring that water, food, snacks, meds. We don't plan to stay the night out here, but if we're on meds and might get stuck, it goes back to that expect the unexpected. We don't plan for emergencies, or we don't expect to have an emergency today. So taking these extra precautions, having a whistle or a mirror will make it much easier if you get into one of these situations. And if you get lost, stay put, especially once you call for help, stay put. We have a few people that that's a challenge for, but if you stay put and you've called 911, we've got your location almost all of the time. We know right where you're at. So as soon as you move, now it's a whole nother search again. And if your phone's about to die, you can text in Mojave County to 911. So do you have anything to add? Do you guys have any questions?
First of all, thank you for that presentation.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank goodness for search and rescue here in such a big county. Any questions from our commissioners? Commissioner Barlow.
Yes, thank you. So I'm excited for this presentation. I come from the Arizona Strip, and we don't have search and rescue up there anymore. They have it over in Beaver Dam, Littlefield area, but in Colorado City, we don't have search and rescue. And I know that last time the sheriff was up there, then he was inquiring, and so I've been working with Deputy Horsley to try to put something together. And before I came to this meeting, I asked him what is something I should ask, and he said he needs help advertising to get people interested to come and be involved. Back when I was little, we had Mike Friend and John Slaughter, and great guys. And it was almost like a community thing. Like, we had a lot of search and rescue guys, but I'm not sure what happened, but the sheriff at the time cut it off. And it's been a struggle ever since. And so the fire department's had to take over that. Well, like you said, it's state law that it's under the sheriff. And a lot of times the sheriff doesn't know about it. Anyway, more of a thank you for your efforts, and I just wonder if there's a way we can start putting together some type of an system that we can get a search and rescue crew up there.
Right. So, do you want to?
Yeah, we do have a strip unit up there, and yeah, they're based mostly out of Mesquite in a scenic area. We encourage people, if they want to join search and rescue, to come over to the strip unit. We do cover the whole strip, that whole area up there with that unit. And we did have a couple people interested out of Colorado City show up to some meetings, and they kind of just fell out because of the hiring process, more or less.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess they're trying to do or they want to see a east side and a west side, because there's quite a distance between the
Initially, we had a meeting with the guys that came in from Colorado City, and we talked about that. We talked with Deputy Horsley, because we sent them through coordinator school. And the idea was to get these guys into the strip unit, and eventually they could break off and maybe form an east unit.
Okay.
Let's say they get trained up and learn our procedures and so on, and how we work business.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know, and we appreciate your efforts, and it's always good to see the deputies around. Our community loves Deputy Horsley. He's very interactive, so thank you.
All right.
Just a follow-up to that, if there are individuals out there that maybe see this presentation and have learned so much about it, and they're interested in maybe getting involved, whether it's on the strip or anywhere else, who would they contact? What's that process look like? Are you guys taking new volunteers?
Yeah, we always are. If you go to our site, mojavisar.com, we have locations. Depending where you live, you just would go to that local unit. So if you live in Bullhead City, you'd go to a Bullhead City meeting, which is held, for example, every first Tuesday. And it's all noted on our website.
Okay, and the website again, for those that may be paying attention?
It's mojavisearch.com.
Mojavisar.
mojavisar.com.
Mojave, SAR.com. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions?
No questions, but I just want to say thank you for giving a great presentation and for your guys' dedication. You guys do a great job.
Thank you. Commissioner Herrero.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative, and I do appreciate what you do. I do have one question about people that put themselves in a situation where it was blatantly wrong, and no, they don't pay for it at this time. Is there anything in the works to get people to have to pay when they really mess up?
No, there isn't. We're dealing with a case right now where we've rescued somebody 7 times in the last, I think, 3 years down in the Narrows. And he constantly calls us. He goes out there lacking supplies and equipment, and he gets himself in trouble. And he ends up calling us, and we go out there and rescue him. We don't have any ARS statutes like the stupid motorist law if you drive into a wash. We don't have like a stupid hiker law or anything along those lines to charge anybody if it becomes unreasonable or if they've not done it too many times.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner Ellison?
No questions. Thank you so much for your time today.
Some of us have been trying to get a dedicated revenue source for the sheriff, considering the many responsibilities and how big our county is. We've been trying to go for a dedicated revenue source. We haven't gotten it yet, but some of us are still going to try. But in the meantime, thank you for everything that you and all of the volunteers, Amanda, thank you for all that you do for us.
Thank you.
We'll move now to the presentation I was referring to earlier from Development Services Department, analysis of an amendment to the Federal Reconciliation Bill, which has since been pulled, regarding the proposed sale of federal lands in Mojave County. Most people have known this as the Lee Amendment after Senator Mike Lee of Utah. Thought it'd be good just to provide an overview of what that actually included, what it didn't include, and who knows if we've seen the last of that? Probably not. But it's good to know what the history is.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. Yes. I do believe it probably is not the last time that we've seen this, so it probably will come forward. And I agree, it's good to kind of learn the ins and outs of what he was proposing. Just so you know, yeah, it was 11 states that were being proposed to dispose of federal land within those states. There was a lot of opposition from some of the senators as well as the House Republicans. Senator Mike Lee, in the middle of it, made some altercations to the amendment, and we'll kind of go through some of those. In the original proposal, they provided shapefiles. So our county GIS, we took those shapefiles and mapped them out. This was the map that was produced for the proposed land that could have been available within Mojave County. One of the main things that was kind of misunderstood was the selection process for the land that was proposed to be disposed. The top priority was going to be land that was nominated by the local jurisdiction. I think it would have been great for probably for this commission, because you guys deal with the public lands, would have been able to make nominations to the Board of Supervisors that could maybe be appropriate for that disposal. The required consultation would have had to have gone through the governor, as well as any local government within the area and any tribes within the area. Some of the things that were excluded, or lands that were excluded from the sale: national monuments, national recreation areas, national wildlife, wilderness areas, national conservation areas. One of the things that Senator Mike Lee altered after he received some opposition from it was that he wanted to make sure that the farmers and ranchers and recreational users would be protected in the bill. He removed the portion that allowed for the disposal of U.S. Forest Service lands. And then he also altered it so that it would only be federal land within 5 miles of a population center. So any land 5 miles from the city of Kingman, Bullhead, Havasu, I'd probably even argue maybe even Golden Valley and some of those other smaller population centers could have qualified.
It had to be within a 5 mile radius of a city limit.
Correct. That was the altercation, or the change that Senator Mike Lee made in that amendment. So they had some priorities of what land was going to be nominated. Parcels adjacent to existing development areas. So again, they wanted to emphasize that it was going to be near city centers. Parcels with access to existing infrastructure, so nearby roads or power lines or utility lines. Parcels that reduce checkerboard land patterns. We see that a lot out here, so anything that could reduce that. And then isolated tracts that are insufficient to manage, so any tracts that were isolated, probably by population or private land. In the end, they had other stipulations. So if the land was to be sold, the county or the land that was going to be sold would have to have restrictions on it, that it could only be developed for housing or anything that would be associated to support the housing development. And that, so the land sold would have that restriction on it. The other thing that would have been nice as well is that it would be a direct revenue for the local jurisdiction. So any land that was sold near a population center, the 5% of the sale would go to that local jurisdiction for infrastructure improvements. Like Chairman Lingerfelter mentioned, the bill was pulled, I think, this Sunday, so we were ready to present on this, and then Sunday, Senator Mike Lee pulled it from the bill, so it's no longer in there. But I don't think it's the last time that we've seen it. I think we'll see it in the future. But with that, I'm open to any questions that you may have on this federal land disposal.
Thank you, Director Holtry. That was a very good presentation. We'll start just down the line. Commissioner Barlow, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I would add that I did hear him on being interviewed, and he said that he pulled it to fix some more things, but that it won't be in this bill, but it is coming back. So,
Commissioner Smith, nothing. Okay. Commissioner Herrero.
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Ellingson.
So just a clarification question, if I could. So some of the property that obviously is in a checkered pattern, you're saying that if there were to be the sale of the land, it would have to go to a residential use, even though the square next to it may not be residential? At least the way it's currently written?
Mr. Chair, yeah. So the proposal was to, first you would have to be nominated by the local jurisdiction. So the local jurisdiction would have to come forward and say, hey, we think this land should be for sale. And then one of the stipulations is it has to be used for housing development or development that would support it. So it could be interpreted that could be commercial uses as well, I would believe. It wasn't very clear in the amendment, but it said housing development and anything supporting that. So,
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, this has been a really interesting topic for me, especially in District 1 with, you draw a line basically right down the middle of Mojave County, and everything to the east is District 1. And a lot of federal lands, and a lot of passionate opinions on both sides of this issue. The fact of it is that the federal government, I think that they manage over 640 million acres of land, primarily in the West. I think this proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, it said there was a cap. It was like maybe 0.50 or 0.75, so maximum of 5 million acres out of the total 640 million acres.
I think originally they started, and I think I had it in the presentation, but I kind of skipped over it, but originally it was 0.75 is the max that they could sell off, but it had to be more than 0.5, and then they reduced that to 0.5 and 0.25.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it gets down to some philosophical conversations, right? I mean, if people still have memories, the state of Utah, they actually, they were trying to get the Supreme Court to hear this, right? That, hey, it was never envisioned for the federal government to, in perpetuity forever, hold these many lands. And they actually they sued, and they wanted the Supreme Court to say that unless those public lands are appropriated for a specific use under the federal law, that the federal government would have to start disposing those lands or transitioning those lands back to the states and the counties. Some of us don't think that, I mean, all of us are, you know, we live here because we enjoy the outdoor lifestyle. I mean, hunters, anglers, off-road enthusiasts. I think that there's a way to do this where it's balanced because it affects everybody. I'd have to and thank you for Supervisor Martin for being here. I know he's an avid sportsman. I'd need to ask him more about hunting and if people should be hunting within 5 miles of a city. I don't know. You know, it just goes down to the back to the argument, you know, should the federal government hold so many lands, 640 million acres forever, especially if there's no specific appropriated use for those lands. I know that there's been problems with wildfire prevention and some of the different philosophies on wildfires. I mean, we've had problems with the boroughs, you know. I mean, there's just been a lot of challenges. Some of the stuff I think the state could handle better than the feds could, because we're closer to the lands than the feds are a lot of times. With the exception of Amanda, she's awesome from BLM. But yeah, I'll get off my soapbox, and hopefully we do see it again. I think that you mentioned the cost sharing provision. There's also a benefit to rural counties out west where, you know, and Assessor Kent, you know this, that every year the rural counties out west, we have to go with our hat in hand to the federal government. We have to beg them to make the payment in lieu of taxes, which is pennies on the dollar what we get from private property taxes. That directly affects our city and county governments. It affects any special districts. It affects fire districts. It affects our school districts, the amount of money that they get. There's a lot of good arguments for it. So hopefully they bring it back sometime soon. But any other comments on that before we move on? Okay, that takes us to item number 9, Commissioner comments and requests for agenda items for future meetings. I'll just go right down the line. Commissioner Barlow, anything for a future agenda meeting?
I don't have anything for future meetings, but I kind of forgot to tell the sheriff's office, congratulations, I guess. I noticed on the Arizona budget, they had a line item in there for Mojave County Search and Rescue for a few dollars. The other thing is we have firefighters out there fighting today on the Arizona Strip and places, and we all heard what happened this last week. So keep our men and women in our prayers. They're fighting a hard fight.
Well said. Thank you. Commissioner Smith. Okay. Commissioner Herrera.
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Ellingson. Nothing.
Not at this time.
Okay. Well, with no items requested, I think our next meeting is again going to be, it's planned for the first Thursday of August. So unless anything changes, we look forward to seeing everybody at that date. We want to thank Assessor Kinch, Attorney Smith, you know, Director Palmer, Director Haltree. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for those in attendance. Thank you to Supervisor Martin for being here and his staff. Appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to meet with us. We're adjourned.